Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video. Right now in Singapore, the shops are currently hosting the standard battles for the One Piece card game, which means whoever wins the standard event or is lucky enough to win the lucky draw, they get to walk away with the Frankie promo that we've seen and talked about in a previous video, and I was lucky enough to win one. So today is going to be just looking at the card as well as one standard battle pack that I'm gonna just open up on video, as well as talk about the deck that I used. It is none other than, you know, the mono red Luffy. I think this deck has been making waves and it is currently my favorite deck to play. Sorry Zoro, Luffy is just really good, especially when you're trying to survive into the late game. So we're gonna take a look at the cards and we're gonna talk about the deck a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribing if you want to keep up to date with more One Piece card game content. But without further ado, let's take a look at the promo pack and the promo Frankie itself. Alright, so here is the participation pack that you get for participating in the standard battle. There's only one card in this pack, so I'm gonna try and open it up and see what we get. So if you're unfamiliar with what cards can be in this pack, you can check out one of my previous videos where I talk about it. But the most popular card that people want to get is the Red and Black Dawn. I have not opened any one of these, so I am perfectly okay with getting any one of the promos. I don't really mind getting any one of them. So let's see what we can get. And the card that we got is... oh! We actually did get the Red Black Dawn card. I mean, it's not foil or anything, but like, people are buying it up for like, I don't know, $20-$30? I'm not sure. I think it looks cool, but I don't think the price is warranted. Maybe just because, you know, you can only get it in this promotional pack. So I'm pretty sure supply will definitely enter the market, so we will definitely have a lot of these going around. But I do like the black and red color scheme Dawn, as well as the kind of like yellow text at the bottom. It's not gold, it's yellow, but they look cool. You know, at least I have one of these, so that's pretty cool. So we're going to put that aside for now, but let's take a look at the Frankie promo right here. Oh, it looks beautiful. It is foil, but it is not textured. I'm trying to get a little bit of the shine. You can see it's super cool. And yeah, so the winner of the event gets one of these, which I did, and then you'll get one person who is lucky enough to get one. So it's 4 standard battles per month for each shop, depending on what the shop wants to do. But I'm just glad that I got my hands on one, and with the Luffy deck right here. So a little bit before we get into the quote-unquote deck tech, Monkey D. Luffy has been a really strong leader right now because it can sort of outlast Eustace Kid, as if you know how to play it well against that matchup. And I have tweaked this list to kind of beat the Kaido decks out there. Of course, Kaido is very strong, and I mean, seeing like the previous big tournaments in Japan, Kaido did win the tournament, so I had to kind of have a plan because I know a lot of people were going to play Kaido. But at the same time, if you guys have not heard, because I have not talked about this in another video, there is an announcement that cards are being banned for the One Piece card game. And this is all the promotional cards like the V-Jump, Luffy, the Psycho Jump promos, as well as the Uta Film Red deck that you get from watching Film Red. These cards, I'll put it up on the screen. These cards are all going to be banned around the Asian Pacific, so we cannot play with these cards starting from 1st October. So saying that it's not October yet, I wanted to play with the cards in that film deck. So this deck has a lot of the top end big powered red head pirates, so I'm excited to talk about them. So if you guys don't know Luffy, yeah, the ability to give a rested Dawn to one of your characters or the leader itself, it's just really good at managing your Dawn efficiently, and you can, you know, get an extra attack here and there, or extra boost in attack in the early game, as well as managing your Dawn efficiently in the late game. So start off with the leader. Next up, we'll go with 4 copies of Tony Chopper. I think Chopper is quite necessary right now, including another blocker that we'll talk about later on, because of Green's just really strong attack when you're down to like 2 or 1 life. When you are in that 1-2 life zone against green, you really have to be careful, and you really have to make sure you have some sort of blockers up, so that you have to force the useless kid player to have an additional attack or ways to deal with the blocker, so that they can, either by resting it, so that they can punch through their way to victory, which is why I think Chopper is quite necessary right now in the current metagame. We do have 4 of the Namis. This is just the Searcher Namis. This is just really good for, you know, getting the cards that you need, be it like Rush Luffy, the 6 cost Big Luffy, as well as Nico Robin. Nico Robin is actually really one of the MVPs in this particular deck list. I will talk about it more when we get to her. So this is definitely needed. I did not run the 1 cost Nami from the starter deck because I have found it to be quite a dead card sometimes, so I have taken it out of. Next up, we have Otama. I think this is just necessary. This comboing with Jet Pistol to get rid of useless kid is necessary right now in the format. So, and it's plus 2000 counter, so definitely really useful. So definitely run 4 of Otama. And this is the inclusion that a lot of people have been putting in recently. This is 4 of the Bartolomeo blocker. It's just a solid 2 cost 2000 blocker with counter 1000. So it can help block against attacks. At the same time, you can use it to counter out of attacks if need be. It being like 2 cost, which is not really that high. It's going to be a chump blocker most of the times, but it's good against stopping green's attack, especially when that useless kid gets to that very scary point where he can swing for multiple attacks in 1 turn. For useless kid, I would highly recommend you to not go below 2 life. 2 life is where you want to be, and then you're just gonna have to keep it that way. After that, just defend against every attack that you get, because they will have 2 attacks with the useless kid leader, so they need to find a way to get 1 more. If as long as you kind of deal with their threats and they only have 2 attacks available, then you should be fine. So just keep that in mind when you're fighting against useless kid. Next, because this is also a promo that's going to be banned and not being able to use from 1st October moving forward, I did put 3 of the V-Jump Luffy in this deck. It has counter 2000. I've never used it to play it in attack against it, but you technically could if you are rushing down some of the, you know, late game decks. But most of the time, this is just going to be a solid 2000 counter. You can replace this with, you know, Sanji or even Brook from the starter deck for that plus 2000 counter. So you don't really need this Luffy just because I have them and they're going to be banned. I want to use them. Next up, I think one of the best cards right now in the format, Nico Robin. It is so good that I'm technically running 6 of her. So if you guys don't know Beppo's ability, it's the same as Nico Robin's. Dawn 1, when you attack, you can KO one of your opponent's characters that has 3000 or less power. So Beppo, the good thing about it is it has counter 2000, so it's an additional counter right then and there. And you can use it to get rid of all the small threats like the Jewelry Bonnie Searcher, multiple blockers. And at the same time, this deck does focus on minusing a lot of power from your opponent's side of the field using cards like Otama, as well as Trafalgar Law, the weird looking Trafalgar Law from the Uta deck. Just minusing power to maybe even like a Eustace Kid or a Trafalgar Law, the 5 cost Trafalgar Law, getting it down to 4k, using Otama to get it down to below 3000, attacking with Robin to KO it. There's a lot of things that you can do to kind of stack the minus power ability. If I could, I would run 4 of this. I think I've been really impressed with Trafalgar Law from the times that I have it in my hand. It's a great way to put the minus 2000 power effect on something, yet have an additional body on the field, because Otama has 0 power. This guy at least has 5000 power. Even though the cost is at 4, it's still a substantial good way to minus someone's power. And you can also, in 1 turn, play Trafalgar Law, minus 2000 power to Eustace Kid, the 8-drop Eustace Kid, and use Jet Pistol against it. So I really quite like this Trafalgar Law. Next up, won't leave home without 4 of the starter deck Luffy. I think this card is just redonkulous good. This card has won me too many games, and right now, if you are at 5 Dawn and you don't have anything else and your opponent has maybe like 1 blocker, just play him down, attack early with it. If your opponent gets rid of it, it's fine. You want to use this Rush Luffy early, as well as use him to do the finishing attacks when your opponent has no life but has a bunch of blockers. Just slam him down, 11k, 12k attack into your opponents, and he can single-handedly win games. So I really like 4. Some lists play 3, but I just really like the 4 copies. I really like Rush Luffy as well. The big promo Luffy, 6 cost, 7000 power, just really strong. Dawn 2 attached 2 Dawns to this guy to give him rush. In some cases, you can just drop him down on turn 6, have it be a big body on the board, but in most of the time you do want to get rush activated on him and try to pressure your opponent that way, because on the turn that he drops and you put 2 Dawns on this promo Luffy, he will be a 9000 powered attacker swinging into your opponent. So it's actually really quite strong. But now we're going to talk about the big boys. This is the reason why this deck won, and it is none other than these 4 cards right here. I mean, Yasop, and then you got 2 copies of Ben Beckman. These are surprisingly very difficult for people to deal with. I put a Yasop all out when I had my 6 Dawn, and then it's just so difficult to get rid of this guy because you can counter out of attacks easily. If you have like 2000 counters, you just want to keep this guy alive just so you can keep pressuring into your opponent. Even better when you have Ben Beckman. 9000 power is not an easy thing to get rid of, so I have like these cards. I wish they weren't banned so that I can play like my big vanillas in this starter deck, but unfortunately 1st October they will go away. But as of now, I'm just going to keep playing them in this deck because I really have fun. I actually have 2 copies of the Uta deck. One is still sealed, so if I could, technically I could run playsets of them, but I really don't want to open my 2nd copy knowing that they're going to be banned anyway, so I will just run 2 of each. And last but not least, you can have big red hat pirates without the captain of the red hat pirates himself, Shanks. Shanks is just really good. I had a list that runs 3 of this guy, but since I'm substituting a lot of the big guys with the other red hat pirates, I dropped the number down to 2. I think this is just really good right now. And yeah, Shanks is just a definite great finisher. You're dropping down turn 9, you can just attack, make your opponent deal with it. If you can defend it, keep him alive and get another swing, it's really good. You know what's better than 1 Shanks? It's 2 Shanks on your field, pressuring to your opponent. They will have a hard time dealing with this guy. Now let's talk about the other MVP of the deck. It is my 2 copies of Roundtable. Now this is strictly for the Kaido players, as well as Eustace Kid, the 8 cost Eustace Kid. But you can Roundtable like a 10 cost Kaido or a the 9 cost Kaido from the starter deck, make their powers like ridiculously low, and then attack with Robin or Beppo and kill it. That's just the way it is. This is so good right now if you are expecting a lot of decks that have Kaido, because Kaido won the event. I was expecting a lot of people to run it, and I was right. So Roundtable, definitely a good inclusion right now in the meta game. Unless things starts to shift and it starts going back to a more rush-centric meta, then this one might not be that good. But still, I think I really like Roundtable right now. I think it's very well positioned in the meta game, and you can definitely have some use out of it. If not, you can always just max out your Jet Pistol. I think I used to run 4. I had to find space in the deck, so I have it at 3 right now. Jet Pistol, just really good. It's a solid removal for all your problematic threats. And I've been finding myself getting rid of Queens, Utas, as well as the 5 cost Eustace Kid blocker with this card more and more often. I think just Jet Pistol is also very well positioned right now in the metagame. You gotta play 3 or 4. The next thing is Guard Point. Guard Point is just a really efficient way to keep your big threats alive. You drop down your Ben Beckman, you drop down your Yasop or your Shanks, you keep 1 Dawn up, and you can use it to play Guard Point to kind of defend against that plus 3000 counter. I love it. You can potentially run Frankie's Vertical Beam instead of this, because that extra plus 1000 power when you're down to 2 life might come in handy. I just never tested it out, and I had Guard Point, and I want that consistency for 3000 for every activation, so I chose Guard Point instead. And last but not least, just 2 copies of the Red Hawk just for some extra counter power. You can change this to something else if you want to. I only ever used it once in my games. So, you know, you can run more jet pistol, you can run like more guard point, you can change this out. But I think this is a kind of solid starting point for a list for the starter deck Luffy. I think this starter deck Luffy is surprisingly really quite good. I have to kind of change my mentality a bit when I'm playing with this deck. I am not rushing down my opponents, I am instead outlasting them. And you can get to very grindy games with this one, but you have to effectively attack your opponent. You want to make sure your opponent drops down the counters early, so that when you drop your big Shanks, when you drop your Ben Beckman, when you drop Yasop down, they will have a hard time countering against their attacks. So it's a lot of math, a lot of risky, you know, okay, I have to attack with exactly 6,000 so that they drop a 2,000 counter, or you attack with 5,000 so that you force out a 1,000 counter, something like that. But it's been working great, and I really like Straw Hat Luffy as a leader right now. I think if I were to go back to Zoro, I might change the Zoro list a little bit, but for survivability and for longer games and for grindier games against 2 of the most popular decks right now, being Eustace Kid as well as Purple Kaido, then I would definitely run this every day. Any day of the week, I would run Straw Hat Luffy. But there you go, the deck that I used to win 4 matches in that standard battle tournament and getting myself the promo Frankie. This card looks sick. I'm glad that, you know, they are doing this so that people can, you know, participate in the tournament, try to get the promo Frankie. And, you know, there's a lot of copies out there floating around, so, you know, don't drop like $300-400 on this card. It's definitely not worth it. I think the prices will definitely come down to probably about, you know, $50 to $100. That's what I'm expecting the price to settle on, because it's still a promo. It's still very rare to get or difficult to get, because you either have to win the tournament or you have to get it via lucky draw, depending on the shop preferences. So keep that in mind when you're intending to pick up your copy of the Frankie promo. Well, that's it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this sort of like deck tech plus talking about the Frankie promo itself, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.